Today we're going to have a look at how we breathe and what we breathe in and out. So we're going to start with inhalation. Now during inhalation, we take in about 21% oxygen, 0.04% carbon dioxide, a low amount of water vapor, and about 78% nitrogen. Now, when inhalation occurs, the diaphragm will contract and move downwards. The external set of intercostal muscles will also contract to pull the ribs up and out. The internal intercostal muscles will relax, and this will increase the volume of the chest cavity, decreasing the pressure and drawing air in. Now, during exhalation, we exhale 16% oxygen. This is because oxygen is removed from the blood by respiring cells, so blood returning to the lungs has a lower oxygen concentration than the air in the alveoli, which means that oxygen will diffuse into the blood in the lungs. We also exhale about 4% carbon dioxide. This is because carbon dioxide is produced by respiration and diffuses into the blood from the respiring cells. The blood then transports the carbon dioxide to the lungs, where it diffuses into the alveoli as it in a higher concentration in the blood than in the air in the alveoli. Now, the water vapor when exhaling air is higher than when inhaling air, and this is because water vapor evaporates from the moist lining of our alveoli into the expired air as a result of the warmth of the body. Now, nitrogen stays at 78% when expiring air, and this is because nitrogen gas is very stable, so it cannot be used by the body. For this reason, its concentration does not change in inspired or expired air. Now, during exhalation, the diaphragm will relax and move upwards into a dome shape. The external as well as the internal intercostal muscles will relax, meaning that the rib cage will move inwards and downwards. This will decrease the volume of the chest cavity, increasing air pressure and forcing air out. Now, when we need to increase the rate of our gas exchange, for example, during strenuous activity, the frequency and depth of our breathing would need to increase. This is because muscles are working harder and aerobically respiring more, and they need more oxygen to be delivered to them to keep up with the energy demand. If they cannot meet the energy demand, they will also respire anaerobically, producing lactic acid. Now, after exercise has finished, the lactic acid that builds up in the muscles needs to be removed as it lowers the pH of the cells, and these can denature enzymes. So it can only be removed by combining it with oxygen, and we can do this by increasing the depth and rate of breathing. Now, the depth and the rate of breathing is increased by a negative feedback system. When exercising, more carbon dioxide is produced. This carbon dioxide then enters the blood plasma, causing the solution to drop in pH. When the blood flows around the circulatory system and passes through the brain, where the increased carbon dioxide levels will be detected by chemoreceptors. These chemoreceptors are cells that detect chemical change in the body. They can detect changes in blood gas levels as well as a change in pH. They are located in the medulla oblongata of the brain. The brain then sends nerve impulses to the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles to increase the rate and depth of muscle contraction. The rate of inspiration will increase along with the volume of air moved in and out with each breath. Now, during this forced exhalation, our diaphragm will also move up by relaxing, forming a dome shaped. Our external intercostal muscles will relax, but our internal intercostal muscles will contract, pulling the ribcage even more down and more inward than normal, forcing more air out, getting rid of more carbon dioxide. Okay, so let's have a look at the bigger picture for a bit. So our respiratory system integrates with our heart as well. The oxygenated blood would enter our heart and they get pumped towards our lungs. Here they would receive oxygen and they will move back to our heart to be then pumped towards our cells in the rest of our body. Here at our body cells, the oxygen is removed from the blood and used in respiration. Carbon dioxide is then produced and the blood goes back towards our heart and the cycle goes again. Let's have a closer look at our lungs. We know our lungs is filled with alveoli. These air-filled sacs provide a large surface area to allow faster diffusion of gases across the surface. They also have thin walls to ensure that diffusion distances remain short. They also have a good blood supply because of all the capillaries surrounding them. This maintains a high concentration gradient, so diffusion occurs faster. If we have a closer look at our alveoli, we can see that it's surrounded by capillaries. Now, capillaries are small blood vessels that contain red blood cells as well as plasma. Now, alveoli is filled with air, which has a high concentration of oxygen compared to the capillary. Our capillary, coming from our body cells towards our lungs, have a low concentration of oxygen and a high concentration of carbon dioxide compared to the alveoli. This means that oxygen will diffuse from our alveoli towards the red blood cells of our capillaries, and carbon dioxide will diffuse from the blood plasma in our capillaries into the alveolar airspace to be exhaled. This oxygen-rich blood will then flow towards our heart and then to the rest of our body cells. If we take a closer look at our body cells, we can see that these cells are also surrounded by capillaries that have blood plasma and red blood cells in them. Our red blood cells here have a high concentration of oxygen as they are coming from the lungs. Our cells here have a high concentration of carbon dioxide because they've been using up oxygen in respiration and producing carbon dioxide in the meantime. This means that carbon dioxide will diffuse from a high concentration in the cells into the blood plasma of the capillary, and oxygen will diffuse from a high concentration of oxygen in the red blood cells into the body cells, which will have a low concentration of oxygen. This cycle then repeats itself again.